What's up, guys? This is your friend Manoj Vuptani. I welcome you all on behalf of the Edupedia world. Are you guys enjoying your life to the fullest? I'm glad you are. So, perfect, guys. It's been a wonderful day outside, and I'm sure that you guys are enjoying your day to the fullest, your life to the fullest. And I'm sure that you're not just passing your time, you are actually living your life with your CA curriculum, your articleship training, and your other extra co-curricular activities, which is actually the most essential one to keep you running in your life. So perfect, guys. In our last presentation, I did discuss with you SA 240, the auditor's responsibilities relating to fraud in an audit of financial statements. That was the part 1 of it. So this is the second and last part wherein I'll be sharing with you the presentation related to the remaining topics of this particular standard of auditing for 240. So I'm sure that you guys are revising your topics time and again. So on this particular front, definitely you are not going to make me feel any more sorry about this thing. So I'm sure that you guys are enjoying, and certainly you guys are revising your topics time and again. Remember, guys, that is the first and the foremost thing which has to be done in order to ensure that you guys don't flunk in your CA final examination. So perfect. With that particular faith in you, let's move to this presentation of ours, which will be started with the first topic. Fasten up your seatbelts, we are about to take off. Risk assessment procedures. So guys, I concluded my last video on the kind of responsibility, accountability an auditor has to take up, and the kind of things which an auditor needs to ensure while going on for any of the audit with relation to fraud. So let's suppose if certain ambiguity, certain kind of suspicion has already arose in your mind as an auditor, and you believe that there are some risks which are going on. How we should move further in that case? We've already detected some of the risks, and there is some certain amount of ambiguity which is going on in our mind, and we need to clear our doubt whether some certain kind of risk is available on which is actually impacting the financial statements in a way or not. So how to go about the same? So first thing which is going to be done is inquire the management on its risk assessment process. By risk assessment process, I simply mean that how do these guys, the management, those charged with governance, how do they identify the risk, and how do they respond the risk after identification of the same? So you need to know about this first of all. Next will come in as the inquiry, which has to be done with the management on the level of communication they have with their employees, their governance team, as far as this particular risk assessment thing is concerned. So what kind of level of communication they people have. Next, we'll have to inquire those charged with governance team, the internal audit department, every other department who is taking care of the governance issues of the company, others within that entity, to ensure that whether these guys are having the fair knowledge of any suspected fraud or not. It has to be taken care of. And next one, after having an inquiry with each and every one of these people, you'll have to lastly perform the analytical procedures to identify whether there is some certain kind of unusual relationship which is actually indicating of some material misstatement. Are there some kind of unusual relationships or unexpected relationships that are going into the company? So we'll have to take care of the same. So this will form the basic foundation of any of the risk assessment procedure. Communication with the auditee is an imperative thing in that. And you as an auditor, I'm not concerned whether you are working as a paid assistant for a firm or you are working as a article for a firm. You'll need to ensure that you guys do ask these questions from the management in order to ascertain that your queries, your grievances are actually sorted out while you perform your audit in that case. So perform the analytical procedures to identify any indicators of material misstatement are available or not. And once you'll be going through all these things, then finally you'll have to adapt some of your responses to all the assessed risk which you have actually encountered on those material misstatements. So what are you going to do? You have already watched out that yes, there are some certain ambiguities and certain risks which are going on in the company as far as the financial statements fraud is concerned. So how will you respond to all these assessed risks on material misstatements? How would you? Simple. You will first of all deploy some of the experienced audit personnel and supervise their work. So you'll deploy some of the experienced audit personnel, and then finally you'll get an opportunity to supervise whether these persons are actually doing their work as an auditor diligently or not. So that will be the first and the foremost step. You'll deploy a team to check out. Next, evaluate the accounting policies of the company. Just go and ensure that what kind of accounting policies the company has adopted while framing and preparing the financial statements of the company. What all are the accounting estimates they are taking on, and match those kind of estimates with the guidance notes which are being issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So there you'll get to know whether the company is actually following the correct and appropriate accounting policies and estimates for the preparation of financial statements of the company or not. If in case the company is actually not using the appropriate measures to prepare the accounting policy, considering the accounting policies and estimates, then in that case you'll have to highlight that thing to the management, and that should be your first response for that. Next, perform the unpredictable audit procedures. So the auditee, the client, is very smart. Remember that. He is already having a fair idea as to how you are going to do your audit. So they have already noticed your working style in the previous engagements. The same kind of engagements you have already completed for that company. So auditee usually has a fair idea of about your style of working. So the best way to give him a good kind of surprise is to perform the unpredictable audit procedures, the ones which you have never applied so far, and you think that yes, if in case you'll be applying those procedures, definitely you'll come to know about some of the instances wherein you can easily detect some kind of fraud or risk which is going on in the company. So you need to change your nature, timing and extent of your audit procedures, and then only you'll be able to provide the best kind of response to the assessed risk for material misstatements of that financial statements. So guys, that has been like the risk assessment procedures, and that should be your responses towards your assessed risk of material misstatements. I hope you guys got the complete clarity as to what should be done while going through any of this kind of situation in any of your audits. Perfect. Now let's move to our next topic. If in case, so that's a very good kind of a thing, an observation which usually most of us as auditors or articles usually face during our audit, and that's what management is trying to override the internal controls. And we have been like watching out such of the instances so many times in our respective audit premises, wherein we can simply detect this. Yes, it's only the absolute management which is going to not comply with some of the controls, and they are actually overriding the same. So we are in a state of fix now. What should be done? Obviously we are. So what could be done? Have you ever thought about it? No? No worries, I'll help you out in thinking. So guys, management override of control. This is a situation wherein the auditor, that means you, suspect that the management is actually perpetrating a fraud by overriding the controls and manipulating the accounts. Then in that case, what should be done, and what all are the activities that you should perform as an auditor? So first of all, you need to inquire with the people who are actually involved in preparation of the financial reporting process about any of the unusual adjustments which are being made by the management as general entries, because that is the basic foundation. General entries is the basic foundation for any of the figures and effects and the amounts which are being floated in the financial statements. So you need to ensure that you do inquire with the people who are actually involved in making the financial reporting process of any of the unusual kind of adjustments which are being made by the management as general entries, for which you don't have any of the justification which has been provided to them as well as you by the management. So you need to take care of it. So next, you need to select first of all. Okay, so you need to select that some certain kind of journal entries for the year end and verify whether the same are appropriate or not. Let's suppose you opted or like selected one of the entry for provision. Every company is like likely to make some kind of provision for its doubtful debts, some other debts which are not directly relatable to the direct debtors, but certainly the company is in good chance of earning some of the amount from those people. So the kind of provision the company is making, so you need to ensure that whether the same has been like duly approved, the kind of provision that they are making, the percentage of it has been like duly approved by the guidance note, the board of directors of the company or not. So if in case there is some certain kind of ambiguity with the same thing, you'll need to gauge out that. Okay, you need to ensure that the provision which is being opted out, preparation of that, whether it has been made at the right point with the right amount with the right percentage or not. And if in case the same is not being made, let's suppose there is a situation wherein you have some of the doubt with respect to some debtors that whether you'll be getting the payment from them or not. There is some certain amount of uncertainty with that. So you need to ensure whether the company has actually prepared the provision or not. There might be a case where then the company wouldn't have made the provision for it. Then you need to ask them up, guys, why haven't you made the provision for the same? Even when there is some certain amount of uncertainty whether the debtor is going to finally repay you the amount or not. So in that case, you will select some of the journal entries for the year end and verify for its appropriateness. Next will come in as the identification for accounting estimates which is being made in the financial statements, and check whether some certain kind of bias has been taken up or not. You'll have to take care of all those accounting estimates. Let's suppose I go with a going concern assumption that yes, company is going to go with the flow over a long distant point of time, and certainly the company is going to grow in that case. So the company is preparing its financial statements with some of the accounting estimates with future years to foresee and come. So you will have to figure it out whether the company is actually taking up the estimates in a right and appropriate sense or not, and check out whether there is some certain kind of biasness in it or not. Maybe the management has actually asked the accountant to prepare with some certain accounting estimates that are actually not feasible or reliable to go about. So you need to take care of it. And if in case you find out any of the instances where you just not believe that yes, the accounting estimate which has been provided by the management should be accurate, then in that case you need to have the communication for that and you need to report it. So that was identification of the accounting estimates made in the financial statements, and check for any of the bias. Next will come in as you need to understand the accounting estimates first of all which has been made by the entity in previous years. Let's suppose I need to make some kind of adjustment in this particular year, or I need to throw some light on the impact that accounting estimate is going to have in the present year's financial statements. What do I need to have? First of all, I need to have the opening balance sheet, because that's where I can see what kind of accounting estimate was made by the entity in previous year. I am as a management making an estimate that yes, I'll be getting something with a percentage of 5% every year. Now this particular year I just make it or as an accounting estimate for let's say 15%. Then what grounds do I have to believe that yes, that proportion is going to increase from 5% to 15%? How do I got to know? So you need to get to know the same with respect to your previous year's balance sheet, the opening balance sheet, or I should say the audited last year's balance sheet. In other sense, that is your best kind of estimate which can provide you an fair idea of the entity's previous year's accounting estimates, and check the same for its effect in current year. You need to know about the same. So let's suppose there are examples for provision for warranty claims which can be compared easily with the actual warranty claims in the current year. I simply had provision. I prepared a provision for the warranty claims for like let's suppose 80,000 rupees last year, and presently in actually I had to pay the warranty of rupees just let's say 30,000 rupees in this present year. Now the management who has been preparing the statements this year are actually vouching for the fact and going for the accuracy that this year we are going to provide for the provision for warranty claim at 2 lakh rupees. then you will be the first person who are going to authenticate the same and ask them up, dude, last year that was 80,000, but in actual you had only 30,000 which was being supported with the documents in current year. Now how can you go with the same fact you'll be allowing, wherein last year you paid for the provision for 80,000, now you are preparing the same for 2 lakh rupees? What kind of justification the management has to provide? In that case, management will surely get back to you on this thing. And if in case you are satisfied with the kind of response they are given, perfect, allow them to do so. But if in case you don't get satisfied with the same, definitely report it out. So understanding the accounting estimate made by the entity in previous years and check its effect on the current year, that's absolutely required. Next will be the unusual transactions. Any kind of unusual transactions, or I should say significant kind of transactions, which are actually outside the normal course of business. Understand the impact on those unusual transactions on your business rationale, and what kind of effect are those unusual transactions are given on your accounts. If you will be understanding that, and if in case you think that these unusual transactions are going to hamper the true and fair view of your financial statements, do report. As an auditor, you need to do it. So that's what management override of control basically all mean. So guys, that was all about management's override of control. I'm sure that you guys got a complete clarity as to what steps should be taken when you find out any of the instances wherein you simply gauge out for management's override of controls. I hope so. Perfect. So next comes in the evaluation of audit evidence. So you need to evaluate the audit evidence. Obviously, you need to each and every time you go for audit, we have to evaluate any of the audit evidences. So guys, wherein the audit evidence basically indicates a risk of fraud, then you need to evaluate its impact on other evidences as well. Let's suppose we are actually by this means we are simply reviewing or revaluing the integrity of the management's representation. There might be a chance that the audit evidence which we have already received, which and the same thing is actually indicating some risk of fraud, then there might be a chance that this particular audit evidence which is actually indicating some risk of fraud is going to impact on some other audit evidence as well. So we need to ensure that. Next will come in as the consideration of the possibility of collusion between employees and management, third parties, while reviewing and evaluating the evidence. There might be possibility that once the fraud or something breaks down, or some kind of like uncertainty with the kind of working of the management and employees gets breakdown. So there is a possibility that collusion is going to happen between the management and the employees in that case while evaluating the evidences. So you need to take care of all these things during your audit as well. So you need to have that kind of watchdog thinking in your mind. Next will come in as the auditor shall evaluate that whether there is some certain kind of legal responsibilities he has in order to intimate to other regulatory authorities. There might be a chance that you as an auditor have been appointed by SEBI, ICRA, ICDA, maybe some certain good kind of like reliable authority from outside, regulatory one. So you need to ensure that if in case you need to report them up, definitely go and report these authorities as well, because you have been appointed by them. So auditor shall evaluate whether he has some kind of legal responsibilities to intimate any of the regulatory authority for that risk of financial statements or not in that case. And in certain exceptional kind of scenarios where the risk of fraud is actually very material, consider withdrawing from the engagement. There have been many instances in my Big Four stint as well. I actually had a privilege of watching this kind of evidence as well, wherein I completely performed in a particular audit. That was the first time my company, my Big Four, got that client on board. So I completed the audit for the same, but I had some of the instances wherein my manager and me were not satisfied with some of the responses which have been like provided by the management, and we were actually like thinking about the fact that some kind of fraud is going on, and I won't reveal that the name of the company, neither my Big Four, because that's certainly against my standards and professional standards. The only thing which is like pointability for you guys to understand is my company actually withdrew from that engagement. Why? Because in that exceptional scenario, because there was a certain kind of risk of fraud over there, and that was extremely material. So my company better considered it from withdrawing that engagement. So in any case, you get some certain kind of scenarios wherein you'll be facing the same kind of situation. You need to ensure that where the risk is of fraud is extremely material, consider withdrawing from that engagement in that case. So the first one, where the audit evidence indicates of risk of fraud, evaluate its impact on other audit evidences. Consider the possibility of collusion between management and employees while evaluating that audit evidence. Auditor should evaluate whether he or she has any kind of legal responsibilities to intimate any regulatory authority or not. And the last, in exceptional scenarios, the auditor may withdraw from the engagement if in case the risk of fraud is material. So you need to take care of it. An auditor shall discuss with the engagement team on how and where the entity's financial statements may be susceptible to some kind of material misstatement due to fraud. So you need to have a regular kind of communication with your team. Always remember that audit is just not a single person activity, it's a team effort. And with team, you'll have to take care of this discussion part on time. So guys, that was all about management's override of control and evaluation of audit evidences. I'm sure that you guys got a complete clarity. Do revise the topic, because that is going to ensure your success in CA filing. So revision is the key. Next is management representation. So guys, management usually provides a representation to auditor, confirming various things. Confirmation about fixed asset, some certain kind of, usually physical verification of fixed asset is being done at the beginning of the year, or usually mid-year. So who is the person who is going to tell us in that case? Management. Why? Because management is the one who is actually like doing such kind of regular checkups with the physical inventory availability or physical fixed asset availability. So you need to rely on these kind of statements, wherein that's just not possible for you as an auditor to gauge out and check out the validity of all these things. So sometimes management do provide us some written representations. So we have to go through the same accordingly. And auditor usually confirms the possibility of something over there. So what will be in that case? So management is basically the representation is going to tell you what all are the areas where management is basically responsible. So management is responsible for the design, implementation and maintenance of appropriate internal control. Remember this thing, you as an auditor are not responsible for designing, implementation or maintenance of appropriate internal control. That is the management. You just need to report on the authenticity, on whether the same are being like reflecting the true and fair view of your financial statements or not. So management is the person who is actually responsible for design and implementation and maintenance of appropriate IC. Management has disclosed to auditor of all the identified fraud risk. That management representation letter is going to provide you all these things. So that is a regular kind of standard format which is being maintained by each of the CA firms, whether it's Big Four or it's some other firm. So it doesn't matter, but they have a standard format. So it is written over there that they have disclosed to the auditor that all the identified frauds which have come in front of them. Next, any communication from employees or from outside persons on suspected frauds shall be communicated to auditor. So they have disclosed this fact. So usually these are the things which are being contained in management representation letter. So that's a very small part. It hasn't come in your examination anyway here, but it forms part of your course syllabus. So I needed to cover this as well. So what are auditors' responsibilities as far as communication and documentation is concerned? Obviously, an auditor needs to communicate very well with the auditee. You need to have that kind of positive approach and positive vibe while you talk or have any kind of interaction or communication with the auditee. It develops a sense of bond in it. It develops some sense of trust in it. So our institute never tells you to boast of your knowledge each time. You need to be very humble. You need to be down to earth, and you need to particularly have that positive vibe in yourself while you try to evaluate any of the information or extract any of the information from the client. Be nice to them, be polite with them, be humble to them. So that's the first and the foremost thing. So communication, The auditor shall communicate of any of the fraud identified to management, those charged with governance, and outside parties, if any. So, if in case you have come across any of the instances wherein you have noted that yes, there is some fraud which is going on in the company, go and communicate the same with management. And if in case you think that management himself or herself is, it's a management itself, sorry, management itself is being involved in any of that stuff, go and talk to those charged with governance, the ones who are actually the higher authority for management. And if in case even they are uh, involved in any of that, then go with legal authorities, the ones which have appointed you up. So outside parties is the one which are the legal authorities, the reporting authorities, SEBI, ICRA, RBI. These are the authorities which have actually like impaneled you during bank audit. If you find any of the things going wrong with respect to fraud, go and write a report to RBI. If in case some of the securities problem is going on, go and report to SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India. So auditors shall need to communicate any of the fraud identified to management, those charged with governance, or outside parties. And after communication, you need to document your working. So auditor shall document the discussion with his engagement, any decisions which have actually reached thereon, the risks which have been identified, the responses which were being applied to all those assessed risks, communication which has been made with the management and regulators. So all these things need to be documented. Our Big Four used to have this kind of analogy, and I must tell you that. So in Big Four, it's more like if it's not documented, it's not done. So documentation is the work paper of any of the auditor, core work paper. So documentation is necessary. If you are an auditor, documentation comes first, always. So auditor's responsibility with respect to communication and documentation, I just briefed you up. You need to necessarily ensure that you guys do revise it accordingly. That. Perfect, guys. So as this is the question which has been like asked in CA final examination for May 2009. Let's understand what the question was. That was about the procedures which are required to be performed when the circumstances indicate a possible misstatement. As an auditor, you have already watched and observed that there is some certain kind of misstatement is going on while you were reviewing any of the financial statements. So what all procedures are required to be performed when circumstances usually indicate a possible misstatement? So guys, whenever the auditor encounters some certain circumstances that may indicate that there is some material misstatement in the financial statements resulting from fraud or error, the auditor should perform procedures to determine whether the financial statements are materially misstated or. So the first one will be consider whether an identified misstatement may be indicative of fraud or not. So when the auditor basically, that means you, if in case identify a misstatement, then you should consider whether a misstatement may be indicative of fraud or not. And if in case there is such an indication, then you should consider the implication of that misstatement in relation to other aspects of your audit as well, particularly the reliability of management representations, whether the same are reliable or not, what all the kind of representations have been made by the management, are they reliable to go about or not. Next one will come in as the communication. So if the auditor has identified a fraud and has indicated some kind of indication for that fraud, the auditor should communicate the information with management, those charged with governance, and in some certain circumstances, when so required by the laws and regulations, then to some regulatory authorities as well for the enforcement. So communication needs to be done. Next comes in as if in case you are like unable to complete, there might be a situation wherein you analyze that as an auditor you are unable to complete the engagement. So what should be done? So in that case, you should consider the professional and the legal formalities and responsibilities which have been like applicable in the circumstances, including whether there has been a requirement for the auditor to report to a person who has made the audit appointment, like RBI, SEBI, IRCA, many of them. So to those regulatory authorities as well, you need to report them up and consider the possibility of withdrawing from the engagement if required. So that's another kind of scenario which usually develops Not in many of the cases, but there are certain cases wherein that usually happens. And if in case the auditor withdraws, then in that case you need to discuss with the appropriate level of management and those charged with governance. The auditor withdrawal is basically from the engagement, and the reasons of that withdrawal should be displayed to them and provided for. And consider whether there is some certain kind of professional or legal requirement to report to the person or persons uh, who have made the audit appointment, then in that case to them as well. So whether you are withdrawing, whenever you are doing so, you need to report to management, those charged with governance, and extra other regulatory authorities as well. So you need to ensure that. So next will come in as management representation. So what should be done? What kind of procedures should be performed if in case we need to take care of management representation? First of all, you need to acknowledge the responsibility for design, implementation, and maintenance is with management, not with you. To prevent and detect fraud, you need to acknowledge that, first of all. Second, you'll have to disclose the results of management's fraud risk assessment with respect to the financial statements. And third one, you need to disclose their knowledge of fraud. They were already aware of that fraud which has been going on in the company and suspected fraud which have affected the entity involving the management, its employees, others, any other people apart from them. And certainly disclose their knowledge of all the allegations of fraud, suspected fraud which has actually affected the entity's financial statements. So that should be covered into management representation. You need to design and disclosure part was lying with management. The last will come in as the documentation. Final thing. So you need to understand the entity's environment. First of all, you need to understand the business of that, and you need to understand the kind of financial reporting which is being applicable to that company. You need to understand that entity and its environment. That is the same thing which has been provided to you in essay 315. It talks about the same thing. Your responses to all the assessed risk, you need to tell them up. You need to communicate with management and those charged with governance. And finally, you need to provide the reasons for non-applicability of the presumption for risk of material misstatement relating to revenue recognition. So guys, these are the possible procedures which are required to be done in order to perform when circumstances indicate any of the possible misstatement. Consider whether an identified misstatement may be indicative of fraud or not. If it exists, then check the implications. Communicate with management, TCWG, and external authorities if necessary. Analyze the situation where the auditor is unable to complete the engagement. You might be required to withdraw from it. You need to take care of management's representation, its design and disclosures, and finally, documentation part. Understand the entity, respond to the assessed risk, and finally communicate with management and those charged with governance. This question was asked in CA Final Examination May 2009. I hope you got the complete clarity as to how to go about and writing your points or your answer to any of the question which has been asked over here. Perfect, guys. The one last step, that complete essay is now over. So I just hope that you got complete clarity with the same thing. Please do revise your topic because that is an essential part for it. So an essential tip, remember it, I'm disclosing to you something which is extremely relevant for your examination, and that is each and every essay is basically having one that unique line which can be used as your ultimate weapon during your CA final examination. I usually call it as Brahmastra, the ultimate weapon. So if in case you are aware that this particular case which has been provided to you in your examination question paper, you are aware that this belongs to essay 240. You're already having the idea after reading out the case and understanding its nuances, and you are aware of it. So all you need to do is you just need to write one line before you start your main answer. So while writing any of the case-based situation relating to essay 240, please do mention this line while you start presenting your answer to increase your chances of getting maximum marks in that case-based question. ICAI expects its students to write professional and technical answers. So that one line is none other than this. According to essay 240, auditor's responsibility relating to fraud in an audit of financial statements. When the auditor comes across such circumstances indicating the possible misstatements resulting from entity's procedure, the auditor shall evaluate whether such a misstatement is indicative of fraud or not. After writing this aforementioned line, you should proceed with the case-based situation and then finally conclude it in the end. So guys, this is an essential tip for you guys. Do write your answers in thorough, professional and technical manner, because that's the only thing with which you can fetch the maximum number of marks in your audit examination. So this is one such line. I briefed you up the same line so many times during my last two presentations. So this is the same thing which is being written in a professional and a technical manner over here. You need to read it out and understand and write it across your paper. Perfect. Do revise your topics time and again. That will help you up in clearing your CA final in first attempt. I'll be concluding my video with a dose of motivation, and that will be the best way to pay for a lovely moment is to enjoy it. So this quote was being mentioned by Richard Betch. So guys, obviously the only problem with the world which is going on currently is half of the people are already remembering or wasting their respective time with the past memories, and the other ones are busy planning their future. So the only problem with the world is nobody is focusing on living on present. Nobody. In fact, not even you, sometimes not even me. So that's the only problem. And we are not aware of this one thing, that if you need to enjoy your life fullest, you need to enjoy it in present. So the best way to pay for any of the lovely moment is to enjoy it now. Don't try to waste your life planning your complete future. I mean, planning your future is not a bad activity. Obviously, you need to do it. But don't forget to enjoy your life currently or presently in order to ensure that you make your life for your future. So you need to make a proper kind of balance between both the things. Forget about past first of all. Come out of it. Focus on your present and then plan your future. So you need to enjoy your present. So the best way to pay for a lovely moment is to enjoy it. Go, just enjoy with your friends, family, relatives. So many people are waiting for you. I'm sure many people are going to tell me, sir, we are CA final students. How can we help it out? Arey dude, many people are actually enjoying their lives being CA students as well. Why can't you? Obviously you can, but you'll have to. Perfect. Thank you. On behalf of the Edupedia world, keep interacting via questions, queries, YouTube comment boxes. We'll love to hear you. In case you have any other grievances or queries, do write to us. I'll reply to them as soon as possible. Stay connected. That will help us understanding your needs way better. Love you guys. Take care. Bye.